around her to a co-presenter as I'm doing this? Great. Liame is a trainer of other career coaches. She's worked in multiple universities within the UK. She's gone into Scotland to help the state government, or the country's government, excuse me, to develop their curriculum for training their career counselors there. She's co-written a book called Creative Career Coaching, and she has her own clients. I had the pleasure of getting to see her in action when I was in London. I think this is 2 years ago. Time is sort of warped. Blur's Day, someone wrote a blog post about things, so blur year. But that session really stood out to me, and I got a copy of her book generously, and I think that you're going to be in for a real treat, especially since we're going to be talking about this neuropsychology of motivation. Motivation, especially when you are talking about such challenging times, it's easy for us to lose motivation when there's so much negativity coming at us. So I think this is going to be really insightful. But in addition to her talk, I highly encourage you to consider getting her book, Creative Career Coaching. It was linked in one of the emails. And we're going to be working on bringing Liame back in via Zoom for a PDS, Professional Development Seminar, sometime in the new year. So you'll have a chance to have a more in-depth time with Liame. So with that, Liame Hambly, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sabina. So I'm just going to, fingers crossed, that I'm going to be able to share my slides. So that means I'm stopping your slideshow, if that's okay.
Yes.
And get mine up. So greetings, whilst I'm doing this, greetings from England. It's 93 degrees, we're not used to it at all. And let me just get that slideshow from the beginning. We're not used to it at all, and unlike you, because you're used to it and you have air conditioning, I just have very archaic ice blocks around me. So it's lovely to be here. I have to say thank you ever so much for the invitation. It's a great honour to be invited to speak. And indeed, it was so funny, Sabrina, because I just thought how graceful your pause was. What I get my delegates to do is much more ungainly, which is called a chicken neck exercise, which is to because we've got to watch when we're on Zoom all the time, our necks and our shoulders.
The chicken.
I invite people every now and then to do their chicken neck exercises.
I love it. We should do that during our breaks.
So thank you very much. I'm going to talk about neuroscience and motivation. I'm not a neuroscientist. I am a career coach, career educator with an interest in neuroscience and in neuropsychology. And you have my details there should you want to get in touch. It'd be great to connect through LinkedIn. That's how Sabrina and I started. And I just think she's the master of LinkedIn. And it's been just such a brilliant way of meeting colleagues. So this is what we're going to cover. You as coaches are very well aware of avoiding that fixed tendency. I'm going to talk a bit about that. And I'm sure some of you have seen the film Inside Out, and that's a character called Joy. And I will refer to her. The relevance of joy will become apparent in a moment. And we will look at some of the neuroscience behind habitual thoughts and feelings. But how on earth do we work with those negative thought patterns, those negative feelings as career coaches when our clients are struggling? So the fix-it tendency. This is me in the morning. So I am not a morning person. I am so grateful that here it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I look at my to-do list and I just go, and I'm flooded. That's when the negative thoughts come in, and that's where the demotivation happens. It's like, oh, can I do it? It seems overwhelming. Other tasks seem anxious, and really I just want to go and put my head under the duvet. That is my natural predisposition. So that's sadness from the film Inside Out. Or you might relate to Eeyore, where you think everything's going to go pear-shaped. That is an English expression. You're right, Sabrina. Pear-shaped just means go to pot. I don't know what else you would call it.
Yes. Liame, I'm also going to say, can you speak just a tiny bit louder?
Yeah. I will come nearer the microphone. Is that okay? Is that better?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Oh, right. Okay. So sadness, Eeyore, that's a part of me. Now, one of the things we help our clients do is realize it's just a part of them, okay? But sometimes we're in there and we just feel it and all the reason goes out and we just feel sort of demotivated, flat. And then you have these people bouncing around you like Joy or like Tigger, who are reframing things for you, saying, look on the bright side, coming up with advice and suggestions for how you could do things differently. Why doesn't that work? Not when you're in that state. And indeed, there's a bit of neuroscience behind this. It actually is counterproductive. It's counterproductive to try and fix things for people when they're feeling demotivated. We can't motivate them. They've got to find it themselves. But we can use approaches and techniques as coaches to facilitate that process. The reason why it doesn't work is that when somebody's in that place, when we come up with ideas and suggestions, we make it sound easy, and they're not feeling like it's easy. They also might be feeling a bit inadequate for the fact they can't change. They're not making that change, they're not changing that job. You know, they're not leaving that comfort zone. They're not sort of being assertive at work or negotiating that pay rise. They're finding it difficult, and we make it sound easy sometimes. And it can leave them not feeling understood. So that's why we, as career coaches, try to avoid the fix-it tendency. Now, there's a reason why it doesn't work, and understanding the brain can give us some insights into that. So this is where I'm just going to go now. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together. The more you think something, the more you believe it. So it becomes very well trodden. Some of your clients think, I'm not bright enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not skilled enough, I can't do it. And the more they think it, I can't do job interviews, the more they believe it. And so they're like a super fast highway, and the brain loves habitual thoughts and feelings. It makes it very efficient. So it doesn't have to think consciously all the time. It's like when you're learning to drive, you have to learn it consciously. Mirror, signal, maneuver, and you think your brain's going to explode. Eventually it becomes automatic, and that's because it's been laid down as a neural pathway, and then it just happens as unconsciously, automatically. So we need those habitual thoughts, those habitual ways of thinking. They work for us a lot of the time, but other times they don't. So a job you used to be happy in, even though it's no longer working for you, and there's an opportunity, you can see a way out, you don't take it, because you're in your comfort zone, it's familiar. Even when thought patterns are destructive, we know we should change them. We know they may not be rational, but we still struggle to change them. Habits are really difficult to change. If you're like me, I'm not a natural exerciser. So I know I should do more exercise, but oh, I love my sofa, and I love films, and I love pizza. I know I should eat better, but at the moment I'm loving ice cream. You know, so I'm full of shoulds and oughts rationally, but my habits are very difficult to break. I'm familiar. The brain loves familiar, even when it's not working for us. Okay, so we sometimes find ourselves, and our clients find ourselves, at war with themselves. Yeah, I know I should go for promotion, but I keep having this imposter syndrome. I know I should sort of step outside of the comfort zone and look at other things, but I just feel too anxious. How do I stop this negative thinking? How do I stop this feeling of demotivation and do something about it? Okay, so this is another bit of brain theory. We do have, if you come across the work of Kahneman, he talks about dual processing theory. We have the rational bit of our brain, the cortex, the neocortex. And as coaches, we help our clients to realize that some of the thoughts and some of the feelings that they're having aren't actually that rational. They're not based on evidence. They're old, they're to do with previous experiences or myths, what other people told them, what other people said about them that we're hanging on to. We help people gain perspective. But then there's this bit that's still feeling the same way. Doing so, I know now when I say I'm not bright enough, that's an old thought, but actually I still feel it. We have this thing about head versus heart. And that's these two ways of thinking at war with each other. And so if we are going to effectively change negative thinking patterns, if we're going to help our clients feel more positive about themselves, and notice I said feel more positive, not just think more positively, we have to work with both of these.
Leanne, I'm going to be a broken record. I wonder if there's a way we can put a book under your microphone. We've still got a couple of people that are having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
Let
me just try something.
One of the things that I know, just from all my experiences living in the UK, I would sometimes struggle with the accent too. It would make it one step harder for me to hear. So having those two factors, a little bit hard to hear and an accent, allows us a little bit more challenge. Sorry about that.
Microphone off. Can you hear me? I'm now defaulting to another microphone. Is that better?
If you keep talking, tell us a little more about that cortex one more time, and then we'll test it out.
Can you hear me at all?
Can hear you. We'll see if it's better. Yeah, let's just have you keep trying.
Okay, I'm really sorry about this. So it's basically we have two ways of thinking. There's the cortex bit. Is this better, Sabrina, or not?
I think so. Yeah. People can put into chat if they have a problem still. Yeah.
I'll come very, very close and scare people with a really full. Okay, how's that?
Oh, I'm hearing people say much better. So thank you.
Good.
Sorry to break your flow. That's terrible of me.
And it's probably because I have a Welsh accent. So some people might find that a little bit different from what they are used to. And we speak quite fast in Wales as well. So just go slow down if you need me to, Sabrina. So basically, I'll tell you what, I'll just go back and say that our clients, sometimes they know they should do something. So they should go for promotion, or they should be more assertive at work, or they should step outside the comfort zone. Like graduates, you know, people who stay in perpetual education, and there's a point where they've got to think about, you know, getting into work. But it's hard because it's the comfort zone. And we know we should and we know we ought, but how do we stop the negative thinking? How do we stop the habitual thoughts and patterns of behavior? You can do all the interview preparation, but if you still don't believe you're good at selection interviews, that feeling is going to get in the way. All right, so, and this is because we have two ways of thinking. So if you look at the work of Daniel Kahneman, our cortex is our rational, it's perspective, it's logic. So you can look at your certificates, your resume, and you can think, look, I've got skills, I've got experience, I've got ability. But because of your past experience, you might still be feeling underconfident. So your head tells you one thing, your feelings tell you something else. Okay? And it's this split between head and heart, between reason and emotion. And so as career coaches, to really help our clients, we need to work with both. We help our clients realize that some of their thinking and feeling isn't rational, it's based in the past. But then we have to help them with the feelings about it as well. And how do we do that? And this is another way of looking at it. I'm hoping there's a few Star Trek fans out there. Your cortex, is this okay now, Sabrina? Can you hear me okay? Your cortex is your Spock bit. Do you mean it's the logical, word-based, rational, conscious? It's also the bit that stops you from doing silly things. Do you mean from saying things? At work, you are constantly checking sometimes that bit of yourself that wants to say things. Okay, that's the bit that realizes, we help our clients realize their limiting thought patterns, their negative thinking patterns. But then we have the other bit of the brain. Okay, and that's the emotional, intuitive, right? So this Kirk, Captain Kirk, much more emotional, much more intuitive, does things, thinks very quickly. And that bit of the brain isn't so much about words, it's about the senses. It's stored in smell, taste, feelings, touch, temperature. It's experiential. So we have to help our clients experience things as differently. Okay, so not just think differently, we want them to experience it differently. And then we can really break some of this habitual thinking. Okay, now a lot of this, I mean, you'd be used to, you know, we use these motivational techniques, and these are some of the ones you're probably very used to. So Sabrina already talked about positive psychology. Indeed, Put in the gratitude, actually saying what you're grateful for every day, trains those neural pathways to focus on the positive instead of the negative. Right, so I keep my gratitude diary. As a naturally negative person, I am training my brain to be more positive. And so there's some of the techniques you may already be aware of, you may already use. And everybody, no matter who they are, benefits from them. So there's some of my key sports people who I admire. So I've done a little bit of a balance here. You can see my British Dame Kelly Holmes and David Weir. I admire them because they were both at the end of their career. The persistence and motivation they needed to keep going in spite of barriers, in spite of failure, in spite of injuries, what kept them motivated? They had coaches. They had people who worked with them on their mindset. My American, I have to say it's my second favourite. I have to say soccer team here, isn't it? It's not football, soccer team. My second favourite soccer team. And Rapinoe, because actually, you know, her courage, her skill, her integrity. All of these people are you'd think, oh, wow, they're highly motivated. But they've struggled. They've all got their own inner demons, we all have. So as coaches, we are using techniques to facilitate, not just being motivated in the first place, but persistence and resilience and the ability to keep going in spite of. So here's some examples. These are things you probably use anyway. So one of the things, as I said, helping people realize that thinking is negative and destructive. Mindfulness is brilliant for that, for people to start to notice and let go of those negative thought patterns. Right? Reframing, instead of reframing it for them, I love that question. What would you say to a friend who said that about themselves? Right, so they challenge themselves. So a couple of others there, you can see scaling questions, gratitude diary, chair work. I'm a great fan of chair work because, again, the more experiential we make our work, the more powerful the shifts can be. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But if you want to know more, it's Hubert Herman's, and his work on the dialogical approach is excellent on that. And just having conversations between those two different parts, the unassertive me and the assertive me, the lack of confident me and the confident me, and starting to try and bring in some coherence so you're not at war with yourself. All right, so all of these techniques are out there. I'm going to focus in on one of them. And this one, it is in the book, but this one draws on some of this theory about the brain, backward action planning, that idea that actually, instead of looking up at the mountain and working out how to get there, you actually imagine you are on the top of the mountain, you've reached your goal, feel it, smell it, taste it, and then work out how to get there. Look back down, how would you have got there? Right, it's more inspiring. That's one of the ones that's used in sports psychology. Very similar to visioning, inhabit it. Okay, and motivational interviewing is the idea that sometimes we need a bit of discomfort with the status quo to be motivated, you know, because the brain likes habit. Sometimes it's not until we hate that job that we move. Do you know what I mean? We need the discomfort to make us do things as well as the inspiration. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you draws on both of those. Being British, I'm a fan of Doctor Who. I don't know, I'm hoping there's some Doctor Who fans out there, but basically this idea of a time machine. Okay, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could help our clients experience things by going down into a time machine and seeing what the future would be like if they stayed in that job, and then going in the time machine and seeing what the future would be like if they changed, and they would feel it and experience it. Well, thankfully we can do that. The imagination is brilliant for this. The brain actually, when you imagine something, it actually experiences the same release of chemicals as if it's actually happening, right? And we can change the neural pathways by using the imagination so that the brain starts to think, hang on, something else is possible. Okay, it's experiential. So with my clients, I get them to describe the thing they're struggling with and just roll with it, find all the reasons why they're struggling and empathize and don't argue and don't fix. So they feel understood, they feel listened to. Then I'd say, right, and ideally I'd use chairs if I was able to. Actually, I do this on Zoom and on the telephone as well. I get them to sit in different chairs or different parts of the room. Right, sit in that chair. This chair is down the future, further down. I want you to imagine you haven't taken any action. So if they're struggling with motivation, you haven't done anything about it. You've done no research, you stayed in that job. If it's a student at university, you've done no work experience, no internships, okay? And actually you can get them to close their eyes, because actually it's really powerful to do this. Imagine you haven't done anything about it. You open that door of that time machine, you step outside. What's the worst case scenario? And use all the senses to inhabit it. What you see, what's going on, what are you feeling, what are other people saying to you, what are you saying to yourself, what's the impact? Describe it for me. And notice I'm not saying what would the impact be, because that's too rational. I want them to be there, feel it. And once we've done that, we then go into another chair. So, well, that's the worst case scenario. And some people, as I said, we need a bit of discomfort. We need to feel it. And my experience is that clients go, oh, I don't like this place at all. So thankfully, we move to the positive and say, now imagine, again, you're in your time machine, you open that door, you have taken action, you have done your research, you have networked, you have done your LinkedIn profile, right? You have developed your skills and you've achieved your goal. Now, what is it like? What is the best case scenario? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you doing? What are you saying to yourself for having done it? And I want them to feel how good it could be. So you can see this is part of the motivational interviewing. Sometimes we need to amplify the difference between where I am now and where I want to be. And we need to feel the discomfort of what could happen if I don't do something. And we need to feel the benefit. And whilst you're feeling it, that's where the neural pathways are shifting. You start to believe that actually it's possible. The brain, it's a bit like when you have a nightmare. Your body thinks that actually happened. You've got all those chemicals pumping through. When you vision, if I ask you now to imagine somewhere beautiful, you'd have all the positive chemicals pumping through. That's how powerful the imagination is. It changes the chemistry. And also it creates those new neural pathways. And the more, it doesn't necessarily happen once, but the more you vision it, the more visioning you do, the more powerful it becomes. Those neurons, as I said, that fire together, wire together.
Liane, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
We're running a little bit behind. So I've just let Amy Mazer know, and I think I've just typed Mike to say, tell Ricky that we're going to start a little bit late. So we've got 2 workshops starting. It's supposed to be at 10:40, so we'll start those at 10:45. And do you think 3 to 4 minutes will be okay? Because I'd really like to have this for like 3 hours. I love this stuff, but at least we're getting a taste of you. I'll let you keep going for another couple of minutes.
Really sorry, it was because I went back over things. I timed it, being very anal. I timed it spot on.
But I also interrupted you in the beginning to make you change the volume. So let's go for it, and just don't worry, take a couple more minutes. We're good.
Okay, so imagine, and this is the backward action planning. You're there, you've reached goal, you always action plan from the positive. Looking back, how did you get there? And this is where I love my sticky notes. Every action idea they come up with, they put it on a sticky note, all right? And then at the end, they can put them in order, and that becomes their action plan. What challenges did you overcome, and so on. Okay. Now, I want to put a caveat. I don't do the worst case scenario if somebody's already in a distressed state. Okay. This is if somebody's just lacking in motivation. So otherwise, I just do the positive. Okay. And so that's a whole brain approach. You're using reflection plus experience to try and shift some of those neural pathways. Okay. The slides are there. There's some extra resources for you. And it was just to say, thank you very much, as I said, for inviting me. Stay connected through LinkedIn. You can see the dog scene coming out. I couldn't help it either, Sabrina. Cute dogs, what's not to love? So thank you very much.
Oh, this is, like I said, the tip of the iceberg. And I'm just going to say one more time that this book is fantastic. I also just want to echo the chair work that Liane was mentioning when we talked to different parts of ourselves. I've done some of this with helping people make really, really big decisions about, do I take the offer, and actually help them sit in different chairs. So Liame inspired me to do this work in this really holistic way. And I've had this impact on several clients since then. So I just have such gratitude for the fact that you bring in the psychology, bring in the neuroscience, and you've got this, it's so logical, and then we can take this and we can really impact our clients. I know people are going to have more questions. Maybe they'll have a chance to chat with you in one of those small groups or at another point. But definitely follow Liame on LinkedIn, because she shares all kinds of fabulous content. And
Can we
keep
see
an eye
the
on
resource slide?
Oh,
Sorry.
resource slide. You want to back up for resource slide, and then
Yes.
we'll.
And I will share these slides. You can have these slides actually, Sabrina, so they'll be with you. I realise something's gone a bit white on there, so I will change the colour, and make sure you have all those. Okay.
Fantastic.
Really good TEDs and YouTube talks and things like that, but I'll make sure you've got it.
I love it. Again, Liame, I'm so grateful. We have learned so much even in this small amount of time. So thank you so much. I wish we would have had you in person, but I'm so glad we still got to have you this way.
Me too. I was
Wonderful.
looking forward to my week in Cape Cod.
I know. She was going to have a whole holiday here. And I'll just add that Liame has been to the US a number of times, including to several career thought leaders conferences. So you are here today with an amazing practitioner in our field, and someone that I just immensely respect. So again, thank you so much, Liame.
Thank you.
What's going to happen now is this room is going to go away, or it's just going to be empty. You're going to, each person is